is going to be fun. Make it easy, make it fun.
Love it.
Okay. If you're watching this, get ready for some awesome content. Why I say awesome content? Because this might be a moneymaker for you in the coming times if you want to do something else in a different venture. What up, y'all? Today's episode of the RV Voice is brought to you by RVFix. And let me tell you, if you've ever found yourself stranded with an RV issue miles from the nearest service center, you know how frustrating that can be. Well, that's where RVFix comes in. Imagine having a master RV tech right in your pocket. Yeah, you heard that right. With RVFix, all it takes is a quick phone call and boom, you're connected via video call with an expert who can guide you through fixing your issue, saving you both time and money. Then here's the kicker. Try RVFix risk-free with a 14-day free trial. You'll need to enter your card number just like most subscriptions, but don't worry, you won't be charged until after the trial ends. If you decide to continue, please use the code RVVoice at checkout. This really helps support the RV Voice and keeps us going strong, and we really appreciate it. Seriously, guys, this is a game changer. Stay on the road and keep your RV in tip-top shape with RVFix. Learn more at rvfix.com. Welcome, Austin Green with Roamly or Outdoorsy?
Both.
Both.
Yeah, I head up partnerships for both entities. They're sister companies, a lot of the same people. But we needed Roamly to facilitate the marketplace. It's a very integral part of why Outdoorsy works how it does, and I can explain a little bit more about that, but I don't want to get too deep into the meat and potatoes right off the bat.
Okay, all right. Well, I kind of want to, though.
Yeah, let's do it. I mean,
all right. Roamly, if you guys don't know what Roamly is, but Roamly is kind of partnered with Vicious.
Yeah.
With our company. So if you want to kind of just a little bit on that, you don't have to get too meat and potatoes in on it, but just a little bit on that would be great.
Yeah, so Roamly is the first RV-focused insure tech. That's how we bill ourselves. We do some other lines of business as well on the recreational side, motorcycle, boat, some things along those lines, but RV has always been our core. We started as a product that was integrated in the Outdoorsy marketplace. So when you rent an RV from Outdoorsy, or if you're listing your RV for rent on Outdoorsy, you know that that RV that either you're renting or that you're listing is protected because of Roamly. The way that insurance works typically is when you own an RV, you have what's called a personal lines RV policy. That policy protects you when you're using it.
Okay.
However, when you're listing it out for rent on a platform like Outdoorsy, that policy does not cover the person that's renting it. So in order to facilitate a marketplace that allows people that own RVs to rent out their RVs to, individuals that want to try it, right? Don't own their own RV, you need a product that protects them during that rental period.
Interesting.
And that was originally how Roamly was created. Now, people got confused when we created our own personal lines product, and I'll talk a little bit about the difference of that, I'm sure, at some point. But now we call that Outdoorsy insurance. Okay. So when you rent an RV on Outdoorsy and part of your booking is you're paying for that insurance, that's Roamly that's powering it, but we call it Outdoorsy insurance.
Makes it easier.
The way we partner with you all is through our personal lines product. Okay. So when someone buys an RV, they need coverage, right? Legally, you're required to have coverage, at least liability for that, but you also want comprehensive and collision because things will go wrong. And more, because things will go wrong. Yep. It's just part of RV ownership.
It's a matter of fact, not if, it's when.
It's exactly. But one of the things that's nice about our policy that's unique, and we actually kind of brought this to the industry as a whole, is there's things in your, for your personal lines policy, whether it's for your car, your RV, your home, there's called commercial use restrictions, which basically means, hey, you're using your asset for your own personal use. You're not allowed to use it for business purposes. And that's pretty standard across any type of personal lines insurance, right? If you rent out your car on Uber or Turo or whatever, right, you're going to need a special insurance product because the underwriters that are providing your personal use policy, they're not going to pay out a claim if you're using it for business purposes. We were the first insurance company that started writing RV insurance policies, personal use policies, that allowed people to rent them out on a platform like Outdoorsy or even our competitors like RV Share. That didn't exist in the past, and people that were renting out their RVs on these platforms were inherently at risk. You know, if they were renting it out on the platform and there was an accident, someone that rented their RV wrecked it during their rental, they still wouldn't really have to worry because we have our own claims team that handles that, right? You submit a claim, hey, my renter wrecked my RV, we're going to help you take care of that. However, let's say you were using it yourself, you wrecked it, backed into a pole or something, you submitted a claim to your insurance company. The adjuster, if, they really dug in and did their due diligence, they saw you were renting it out on a platform, they'd be like, well, there's no way for you to prove that you did this damage and not someone on this rental platform where you're renting your RV. So there's a world in which your claims could be denied, your policy would be terminated. So when we created our Roamly personal lines product, we removed rentals from the list of commercial use restrictions, which allowed RV owners to list their RVs on these platforms and not worry about having claims denied or being dropped from their coverage.
Plus it's tracked.
Exactly.
Of where it's going to be at.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Okay, so hey, real quick, let's move this cord.
This guy?
Yeah, roll it over the top.
Okay.
Somewhere. Yeah, because otherwise you're going to keep bumping it and it'll probably get a catch. Sorry, guys. We're going to get back to the content here.
There we go. How's that? That better?
Oh, it's going to be better. Yeah, they're super sensitive. I just go like this, it'll catch it up here.
Oh gosh,
it's amazing.
Yeah, no, these are super nice mics.
Yeah, awesome. So, okay, that kind of breaks that down, like the whole idea of why it started and like just the Roamly behind it, right?
Yep.
But Outdoorsy is a platform. I'm sure you guys heard of it. RV Share is very similar. I'm assuming.
Yep.
Right?
Our biggest competitor.
Biggest competitor. Well, okay. Well, maybe we'll get them on here. But anyway, so Outdoorsy is a way to, I guess, make money out of your asset. You buy an RV, right? Well, a lot of the times your RV, you're probably going to use it. Probably the average RV user, I think it's like 10 days a year.
Yeah,
14 days a year.
There's a statistic, and it's probably a little outdated now, but we used it a lot in our marketing early on. And it was something like there are, and I don't remember the actual figure, but there's some million amount of RVs that sit unused in garages like 50 weeks out of the year. So I hate to say it because
it's only 52, folks.
Yeah, I love the RV industry. I mean, I love boating. I love all that kind of stuff. I paddleboard all the time myself, but there's a phrase. It's like the best day of when you buy a boat or the best
two best days.
Yeah, there's two best days. It's the day you buy it and the day you sell it.
Yep.
And I think a lot of that too carries over to the RV industry just because you get excited, right? Oh, I'm going to go camping. I'm going to take this out every weekend. Life happens. It gets harder to do that. So
there's this thing called a 9 to 5.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody does it apparently for the most part.
5-day working weeks. I fully support going down to 4 so we can use our RVs more, right?
Yeah,
so
4 10s would be great. I'd be all about it. But anyway, so that gives a really good idea of like what Outdoorsy is, right? But like, let's just kind of break it down to the beginning. Like, understand the basics. Like, one, who's this for? Where are people renting? What are people renting? And then, like, why are people renting versus buying, right? So for RV owners, what would you say like the biggest benefit of listing their RV on Outdoorsy would be? So there's a lot there. So let's kind of go, who's this for at first?
Yeah, I mean, so we're a marketplace. So when we talk about the marketplace, we divide it up into supply and demand, or hosts and renters, right? We want to provide a platform where people that own these assets that may not use them as much as they'd like have a way to put that asset to work, right?
Yes. And
similarly, on the flip side, there's a lot of people where owning an RV is just not attainable, especially with the current state of
everything,
the world, right? These are not cheap assets.
No.
They depreciate quickly.
Very fast. And
for a lot of people, it's just not in the cards to own one. But I think part of the American identity historically has been, the great American road trip, right? I want to put everything in my car and RV, and I want to go see national parks. I want to go see state parks. I want to, stop at a KOA on the way to where I'm going ultimately. Yeah. And I think there's still a huge appetite for that. I mean, you've seen the emergence of things like van life on Instagram. You've seen,
van life. Big fan.
Big fan, right? And in a lot of ways, van life, I think, became so big was because people wanted an attainable and an easier way.
Cheaper way.
And a cheaper way to go have a cool experiential vacation. And don't get me wrong, love staying in hotels. Like, hotels can be cool, but like, I wouldn't define a hotel stay necessarily as experiential, right?
No.
Maybe if you're staying at a casino, which
Great Wolf Lodge.
yeah, something like that, right?
Something really cool.
But I would still prefer to have the ability to, you know, go where I want, when I want. So getting back to your original question, you know, it's for people that want to put these assets to work, make money off of it when they're not using it, make RV life more affordable for them.
Yeah.
But it's also a way to provide experiential, that kind of Americana trip to people who may not have the means to own an asset like that yet. Or for the RV curious, it's a great way to try before you buy.
Yeah.
It's a big investment when you purchase an RV. And if you can test it out on the front end, it's probably a good way to make sure this is something you ultimately want to make a big investment in.
Yeah, so it's kind of a, when you say who it's for, it's kind of a all real well-rounded, like, one, it's for people who own RVs, and also for people who want to attempt RVing.
Exactly.
Right, yeah, you don't want to just dive into it, like dip the toe. A lot of people say, I talk to a lot of full-timers, like dip the toe. Well,
Yep.
Outdoorsy, I bet you a lot of people dip the toe by Outdoorsy. Or I'm guessing there's other places to do it. I'm sure Marketplace has, you know, Facebook Marketplace. People like rent out my RV.
Yep.
But they probably don't have the insurance like you do.
They don't, and that can bring a world of hurt. So if
Don't
you
do
ever look to rent an RV, don't do it on Facebook Marketplace.
Okay.
It's not worth the heartache.
So is there like more, I guess let's hop into the like where people are renting. Is there like more like hotspots across the U.S.?
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
For me, like, so you said, we talked about Fireside RV Rentals. This is kind of their own, like they were a big, I guess, contributor to you guys at one point in time. And I guess you guys go back and forth as whatever. But they're in a place where they have 10 months of camping. I'm looking at buying an RV, sending it to them, and I never see the thing.
Yep.
Because I don't want to be the person.
Yeah.
But like
Consignment's a great option.
yeah, you know, I'd rather do it that way. But anyway, so like where, like, is there like, what hotspots are there for people that I guess are renting?
Yeah, I mean, the time of the year has a huge impact, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the where depends on what you want to do. Obviously, national parks, state parks, huge interest, right? So, you know, Montana, like, and my geography could be off here, so bear with me. Like, you know, Calgary, you know, that's kind of an entryway to Banff, right?
Yeah. Straight north of here, 13 hours.
Exactly,
Literally,
right?
like arrow straight.
So that's like a huge market for us in Canada. Same with like the BC area, right? There's
you
a lot
have
of cool
Canada
stuff.
too?
Oh yeah, we're
I didn't know
U.S. and Canada.
Oh shoot!
Yeah.
Hey, listen up there.
There you go. Similarly, like the West Coast, tons of great national parks in that area. I would say our biggest markets typically are California, Florida, Texas. Those are also just 3 of the largest states in the U.S., so go figure, right?
Yeah.
I would say year-round, kind of the Sun Belt and the Southeast is more of a, you know, a warm weather state year-round, so there's more opportunities to camp there.
Fair weather camping.
Exactly. But in the north, there's still a ton of stuff to do. So Yellowstone, Yosemite, right? Olympia,
Glacier,
all of those. Those are massive points of interest, and we see a lot of rentals in those marketplaces. However, you know, I was in Florida with my girlfriend last year, and we just kind of bopped around in a camper van. We did everything from St. Pete to Crystal Falls, swim with some manatees, went to Disney World, stayed at Camp Wilderness.
You did the deal.
Did Harry Potter World. Like, a lot of people do multi-leg trips, and they'll even do it across state lines.
Yeah.
So, you know, the big states with a lot of ownership, RV ownership, California, with a lot of cool stuff to do outside, but you're really not limited. I mean, we're in all 50 states. Hawaii's interestingly a big market. More with the overland vehicles, right? I can see that. You want to go do the road to Hana with like a Tacoma with a rooftop tent? Like,
yes.
There's tons of cool stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, it makes sense. So basically anywhere you're at. I mean, do you see even like, so a lot of people kind of skip the Midwest, but is the Midwest, I mean, is there a market there?
I mean, I would say Ohio, Indiana, Illinois. I mean, that's RV country.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot of people that own RVs out there, and there's a lot of people that rent out there as well. You know, people don't use it just for going to state parks, you know, national parks. People can use it for tailgating, for games, right? People can use it for, I mean, I've rented a van because I wanted to go stay with my family during Thanksgiving, and the accommodations were not up to snuff. So
you got a van.
I got a van and hung out in the van, and it was a way better experience.
Yeah, I'm gonna go bail.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll be parked in the parking lot, but or in the driveway.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna have like a whole room to myself instead of you know staying in a small Airstream with like tiny beds with like 6 full-grown men, I think I'll pass on that.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, definitely. So we kind of got to the why are people renting, so we don't need to really cover that. Is there like certain, I guess, RVs that are, I guess, more apt to be renting out? I mean, obviously, I would say there probably is, but obviously it comes with different pricing too. So like,
it does.
What are people renting more often than not?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it too depends on who the renter is, right? If it's a family of 4, like mom and dad, 2 young kids, you probably wouldn't want to fit in a camper van, right? A Class C would be a lot better for something like that. You know, Class A's are definitely a small part of the platform, but I think that's mainly because it's a massive vehicle, right? Like a lot of people, myself included, we're not comfortable driving a 40-foot rig, right? I'm just not. All of my rentals personally have been camper vans, and I think for more of kind of that millennial, early stage family, dual income, no kids, like that's an extremely that's an extremely popular asset type. In fact, I think if you take out trailers, motorized assets, camper vans are the most popular vehicle on our platform. Really? Camper vans, Class B's, basically the same thing, right? Class C's are right behind that, and then Class A's are a lot less popular. However, for the RV aficionados that know how to drive those, it's a great solution. The other thing that's interesting are trailers, right? Trailers make up a huge portion of our rentals too. And what's unique about trailers is a lot of the hosts on our platform offer delivery, which is a massive, massive advantage. If you don't want to tow an RV, I wouldn't, candidly, but you want to stay in a like really nice fifth wheel that's like delivered to your campground, we offer that. Well, we don't as Outdoorsy, but our hosts do. A lot of them do. And some of them will offer it like, you know, within 100-mile range of where they're at. So these people will take it out, deliver it, you show up, it's there waiting for you, and then you leave and they come pick it up after you're already gone. So that's very popular on the platform as well, just because you don't have to worry about the driving or anything. You go to your campground, you have your car so you can still move around as needed, but you've got a sweet, you know, trailer waiting for you there with all the bells and whistles. And some of those fifth wheels that I've seen, you know, on the platform are nicer than my house. So
and they're getting nice.
They're bougie.
They're getting real bougie. I mean, like when I first started in the RV industry and I popped my head into a couple of them, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, my house needs some upgrades.
That's how I felt. I was like, dang.
Awesome. Well, that answers kind of like who, what, when, where, why, all of it. It makes sense. I mean, personally, I've looked at it. I just haven't pulled the trigger yet. So now let's talk about like getting listed, like actually listing your RV. What do you do to help? I guess I say I list my RV online. How do you make that be seen more? So like, I mean, this is getting into marketing, so SEO, web reach, and all that. It's a totally different ball game, but he can explain it in human terms. Yeah.
So, I mean, Outdoorsy does a lot of that work for you, right? We have a dedicated marketing team that is driving a lot of traffic to the website. Now, what the hosts need to do is create an attractive, compelling listing. And there's a bunch of different ways to do that. Historically, we've had listing coaches that have helped with that. We also have a lot of educational resources on the website through email that we'll provide. But we have an algorithm on the back end that basically ranks how RVs are distributed and shown in a given, let's say you're looking for an RV rental in Boise, right? We're going to show the vehicles at the top that have the most positive reviews, that have the fastest response times to renters that want to rent their RV.
It takes 2 to tango.
There's a bunch of different things that go into that because, candidly, we need to provide a good experience to the renter to ensure that you have a long-term sustainable business as a host on the platform. So it makes sense for us and the hosts to show the ones at the top that are doing the best by our customers, right? You know, we've had hosts that come onto the platform, oh, I'm going to make a ton of money, don't get a rental in their first 3 days, and they never open the app again. Well, and then we find that, 6 months later, they had 40 booking requests where they just never responded to the renter. We don't want to show those types of listings high up in our, because it's not a good experience for the renter, right?
It takes 2 to tango.
It takes 2 to tango.
Yeah, it really does.
So when you are building out your listing, we make a bunch of recommendations. High quality photos. We don't want, angled photo of, low resolution phone where your hand is, it's do a good job with your photos. Create a story for your RV. Like some of the best or most rented RVs on our platform if you read their listing page, they've got a story for their RV. They name it.
Yeah.
They name it. They've got a story.
This is Winnie.
Exactly. I mean, they've got photos of them and other renters using it that they, put up with the permission of the renter. You got to give a good rundown of all the amenities, things to do nearby, right? And we'll talk about more of the process of the actual rent off and the key exchange and the walkthrough. But all of those things create a comprehensive experience that you're going to benefit from on the back end when you get a positive review, when people are recommending your unit to their friends and family.
Okay, so now as a renter, like me I'd be the one renting it out.
Yep.
Whatever. Sorry.
That nomenclature gets weird, man.
Yeah,
it's like
I'm the lesser.
The renter, rentee. I like to use host.
Okay, I'm the host.
There you go.
I am hosting an RV on Outdoorsy. Do I set the price for the rental?
Yes.
Okay. Can you walk through that and talk about how that works? Because otherwise, I'm a profit guy.
Oh, for sure.
But I also want to be fair profit.
Yep.
That's got to be able to how do you kind of just walk us through that?
Yeah. So when you're creating your listing, we're actually going to recommend a price point for you based on where you are, what type of vehicle, how old it is, all that stuff. As you can imagine, we've got a lot of data around the competitiveness of that pricing. We've done over 1 million rentals on our platform since we launched in 2015, over $2 billion in transactions. So we've got a lot of data.
2020?
We launched in 2015, 2016 is really when we started doing business. So we've been around for almost 10 years now. Yeah. And in that time, we've done over 1 million rentals. So we've got a lot of data on what rents well, why it rents well, and what price points drive action from renters, right? And we're going to recommend a price point for you when you are building your host profile based on the vehicle that you're renting out. We do give the ability to set special pricing at specific times of the year, holidays, if you want to offer some sort of holiday discount, or if, it's a more competitive time, you can increase pricing, right? You'll see folks come in and try to undercut the market initially to get some initial reviews and some collateral like that that'll help boost their visibility in the results pages, and that drives success for some folks too. From a pricing standpoint, the way it works is, on average, we're going to take 20% of that given booking as the finder's fee. We'll also take 10% from the renter as the renter fee. But a lot of times, if we offer any sort of discount, it comes out of the renter fee. So in actuality, it really depends if they're using a coupon code or not. But when you're renting out your RV as a host, all of that kind of goes into play. How many rentals do I think I'm going to get as I scale this business? Knowing that I'm going to retain 80% of that revenue, what should I set my pricing at to be competitive in the market? And honestly, one of the best things to do, aside from all of the recommendations that we're going to provide, is go on Outdoorsy and pretend you're a renter. Look at what's in your area. What's renting out? What has the most reviews? How are they positioning their RV?
Copycat. That's all you got to do.
If it ain't broken, don't fix it.
There you go. Absolutely. So I'm going to ask a question, but I'm going to go check to make sure. So after I ask, you just go ahead.
Yeah, for sure.
So if we kind of covered how much it costs, about 20%, profit, whatever they take, and then the 10% from the person actually renting it out. Or taking it out for rent, whatever.
Yeah.
I hate that. Not the host. Anyway, but is there payment per click or payment per user by any chance?
It is fully free to list your RV on Outdoorsy. Now, if you want to do supplemental marketing on your end, you're absolutely allowed to do that. We've got a refer a friend program. You can send links of your RV directly to friends and family that are going to give you a credit on the fees that Outdoorsy charges you as a host when you have a booking, and it's also going to give the renter, $50 or whatever off their first rental. So there are ways to market. I mean, we see hosts market their Outdoorsy listing on Facebook Marketplace, on Craigslist, on all these other areas. So there's also a world in which you do your own marketing and point it directly to Outdoorsy. So, you have a lot of autonomy in how you're promoting and positioning your vehicle as a host on the platform. But even if you're not going to do your own marketing, we're very competitive in traditional, digital marketing channels. So paid search, social, organic. We're driving a lot. I mean, during peak peak months, which are typically like your, late spring to early fall, we're driving millions of clicks to the website. So you are going to get eyeballs on your listing if you build a high quality listing.
Okay. So that makes total sense. I mean, why not get, it's the web, right?
Exactly.
If you build a bigger web, you're going to catch more people.
Build it, they will come.
It's just how it goes. That's why they call it the web.
Yep.
On that though is okay, it was there. It's gone now. We're going to move on. Managing booking. So like, I am the host. I would be kind of managing the booking, right? Like we kind of talked about that. So I do the communication with the renter. I have to provide a walkthrough, I'm assuming.
Yep.
That's how it all works. I mean, do people do videos for that?
Yeah, so I'll actually talk about my experience last year in Florida.
Okay.
Well, I guess it was this year. It was 2024. So when you request a booking, there's a couple different types of listings on Outdoorsy. If you're a host, you can opt in to Instabook, which means you keep your calendar up to date. When somebody books a time, you don't necessarily have to approve it. That's a nice model for the renter because they don't have to worry about, oh, am I going to get approved? What's the response time going to look like? You book it and you're good. A lot of times the people that offer Instabook on Outdoorsy are kind of more pros. So these are people that have a fleet. They're listing their vehicles on Outdoorsy through our wheelbase product. We'll talk a little bit more about wheelbase as well. But there's also a method in which, hey, if you want to rent an RV, you may request a booking with a vehicle that doesn't offer Instabook. And that host would just need to go in, take a look at what you've requested, dates, who you are, the information that you've provided, and then they'll approve that booking. Once a booking is, like, as part of the booking process, we also verify the ID of the renter. When you actually make a booking, you're going to, I can't remember the name of the product, but you're going to upload a photo ID. We're going to make sure you are who you say you are. Check. Run a bit of a background check. Like, we don't want someone that, has 8 warrants,
trying to disappear.
Yeah, exactly. So, we do a lot of that on heavy lifting on our end, the vetting and everything. And then once the booking's in place, you communicate via the Outdoorsy app. We always recommend communicating directly over the app instead of whatever phone calls. There are unscrupulous people that try to scam people on these platforms. Like, if you're communicating over the Outdoorsy platform through our app, we have access to all of that. We can see if and when things would ever go wrong, but we've got a paper trail as well. So when you're communicating over the app, any sort of spam, it's effectively zero. When you go to pick up the RV, we require that the host gives you a walkthrough as part of the key exchange, which is great. Typically takes 10-15 minutes. And when I picked up our rig, it was a ProMaster conversion that the guy built himself.
Very nice.
Sweet rig. Yeah. Awesome. He walked me through the whole thing in about 15-20 minutes. I downloaded an app too so that I could control like everything in the RV remotely, and he walked me through how to use that. And not only that, but the walkthrough was like, hey, here's how to use everything. If something breaks, here's what you can do. You can contact me through the app. Made it super easy. I felt very confident leaving with that rig because he walked me through everything. And what was funny is, how some of those screen doors on these RVs can be. It actually came off in the middle of our trip, but because he showed me how it worked, I was able to put it back on in like 10 minutes. So super easy, straightforward. But what I also really appreciated as part of the walkthrough experience was he gave us so many good recommendations on things to do as part of our trip. Like, we had a campground booked kind of in the Silver Springs area. We knew we wanted to go swim with manatees. We had Camp Wilderness at Disney World booked, but we didn't really know what we were going to be doing along the way. He recommended this place in St. Pete called Mazzaro's, one of the coolest Italian markets I've ever been to in my life. I mean, we're talking the freshest sapricella, prosciutto. I mean, it was incredible. Fresh, warm mozzarella, loading up on Peronis. I felt like a king in that thing. He recommended the Salvador Dali Museum, which was incredible. I mean, he helped us put together an itinerary that wasn't fully baked yet during our walkthrough experience. And it made our trip infinitely better.
Interesting.
Some really cool experiences. But yes, to answer your initial question, the walkthrough is required.
Yeah.
They're going to make sure that you feel comfortable taking that rig out, and the key exchange is all in person, which is cool.
Perfect. I'm going to ask one more question, but then I got to go back to one question before.
Sure.
So this is on all that. I mean, sounds like you had a wonderful time.
I did.
Van. I'm a huge fan of camper vans.
They're awesome.
Yeah. I am actually flipping a 2000 Safari right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's
That's
GMC
sweet.
Safari. Yeah, I'm working on it. It's still in beginning stages.
I hear you. I hear you.
So does like Outdoorsy support the first-time buyer or an experienced renters in a smooth and enjoyable experience? It sounds like.
Yeah.
It sounds like most people kill it. I'm guessing there's some horror stories out there.
I mean,
but
there's been over 1 million rentals. There's definitely some horror stories out there, but by and large, it's a very positive experience for the vast majority of our renters.
Yeah, first time around. So, okay, I'm going to go back to a question that we were talking about, kind of listing your RV, because you talked about, you know, there's like pro hosts or whatever, and I've seen this through like Turo. I've seen this through other like rental apps. But do people make this a full-time gig?
Absolutely. And you mentioned Gar Russell earlier from Fireside. I mean, he got his start on the Outdoorsy platform. Nika from Chill RV, and I believe she's in San Diego. She's in Southern California.
Yeah. I
mean, she built a multi-million-dollar business from nothing. She had an uncle that had an RV, and she rented it out one time. I don't even think he knew. She was like, "Holy crap, I can make some money on this."
Arbitrage.
And then and then her uncle was like, "Where's my RV?" And she's like, "Well, it's being rented."
We're making money.
Yeah, well, and now she owns like 6 very nice Class C RVs, and I think in the 3 years. So this isn't even including 2024 data, but from 2020 to 2023 alone, she cleared over $2 million, I think, in rental revenue. Like, people have built businesses on the Outdoorsy platform. I think that's gross, but I mean, net still like 1.8 right? or 1.7. Like, it's pretty good.
All right.
But yeah, like we've got, and this was actually very important as we were like early stages, first building out the marketplace. You know, marketplaces are everywhere these days, right? Airbnb, Turo,
whatever,
Outdoorsy, they're everywhere. And one of the big components of starting and building out a marketplace initially is bringing on what we call pro inventory on the platform. These are fleet owners, people that have been in this business for a while but need additional marketing, and Outdoorsy can provide that. And one of the nice things about renting from a pro is that typically they've got their practices locked in, right? You know, you can expect a certain experience from a professional RV rental company. So early on, we tried to bring on as many pros into the platform as we could. And we did that through a software that we developed called Wheelbase. And Wheelbase was the first RV fleet management platform. If you know much about, you know, the RV industry, it's not much different in dealerships than it was for a lot of these rental fleets. You know, 2010 and before, even up through 2015, you know, a lot of people were doing this on pen and paper. They weren't using software that, you know, synced calendars, managed your inbox, tracked inventory, all of that stuff. So we created the first RV rental fleet software. And that allowed us to bring people onto the Outdoorsy platform by opting in, but also made it easier for them to run their businesses with modernized software. So when you're talking about, you know, Gar Russell from Fireside or Nika from Chill RV or one of the hundreds of other pros we have on the platform, a lot of them were brought on through that Wheelbase platform and still use it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah. So you can do this. You can build your own little empire. If
Yeah.
you want to.
Now, I would recommend, like, you know, you got one or two RVs, start small. But as you build out that empire, we'll have solutions for you.
Yeah. Okay. But along the way, you know, we talked about insurance and protection, right? So so it sounds like to me when you were talking about it earlier, kind of diving into it, it sounds like it's a two-sided thing.
Yeah.
Like most people, you're going to, like, it could be strictly rental, right? Do you still need a personal?
Yes. I mean, you always need a personal RV insurance product. Okay. If you are an RV owner, whether it's through Roamly, whether it's Progressive, Geico, NatGen, Foremost, like just like your car, you have to have it insured, legally speaking, at least for liability.
Even if it's under a business umbrella.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
You cannot have an RV that does not at least carry liability insurance. You are breaking the law if that is the case.
Okay, so I guess you kind of explained it earlier, and I don't really want to talk too much about it. I guess what happens, if a renter does damage it, like I guess let's kind of walk through that a little bit because we didn't really hit on that. I'm the host. He's renting my RV. He messes it up. Go.
Yeah. So as part of the walkthrough, as the host, you're going to take pictures of your vehicle, right? The exterior and the interior before the renter leaves. That way, in the event of an accident, you have before and after photos that show the damage that took place. We have our own dedicated claims team. It's pretty large just because of the volume of rentals we do on the platform. If you need to submit a claim, we make it easy. You just do it digitally. I believe it's outdoorsy.com/claims. You can submit your first notice of loss, and then we'll put you into the queue, get you an adjuster to help you through that whole claims process. That's really it. We've got a dedicated team there for you. So they'll walk you through that whole process. Depending on, when and where, the time it takes to resolve those claims can vary. But you do know that you have a claims team on your side that is, all they do is RV. So we understand these vehicles very well. We understand, what the repair processes look like. We can pretty much work with almost any shop out there as well. So we'll help you go through that claims process and make sure that your RV is back on the road as soon as possible so you can get more rentals.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. So there's a renter's deposit, I'm assuming, right? Does that deposit does that deposit go straight toward the deductible, or is that still on the host?
So the host actually sets the security deposit themselves.
Okay.
There's not a flat deposit.
Okay.
So you can have that security deposit in place in the event that there are any other damages to the rig that you may not want to submit a claim for example. Someone tears up your sliding door. Probably doesn't make sense to submit a claim and have that sitting in the claims, team for 2 months while you wait for that to be resolved, right?
Yeah.
You can just go buy a new one and have it, you can install it yourself in probably 30 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So in that kind of instance, that's where a security deposit would really come in handy. Hey, you put together a $500 security deposit. I had to pay $200 for this new sliding door. You get a $300 refund as a renter, and you can go on your merry way. Okay. So you have the flexibility to set not only your security deposit, but your cancellation windows, a lot of that stuff. We give you the autonomy to run the business the way you want.
So what if it exceeds the deposit?
Then in that instance, you would probably want to submit a claim, depending on the level of damage.
Yeah. So RV doors are a notorious problem.
Yeah.
I know that. I worked in the RV industry, so that's, literally doors is one of the top. So,
glass.
Yeah, glass. So if it's a $500 deposit, that's nothing. That's typical. Pretty typical across the board. Doesn't matter what you do. Does it really warrant the claim then?
It depends on the level of damage.
It's a $600 door.
I would say that most hosts in that instance probably would not submit a claim, right? Use a security deposit, get the fix in, get it back on the road. But it really just depends on that specific instance.
Yeah.
And for full transparency, I've never worked on the claim side, so I'd love to have Jessica or someone from our team that could give you a better rundown of what that full process looks like.
Yeah.
But it's pretty straightforward.
You're talking about Jesse?
No, Jessica is actually our VP of risk and claims, so she handles the claims team from the bottom up.
That'd be interesting to get her and ask about insurance, because it's a worry. You have an asset out there. It could get messed up quite easily.
The good news, though, is that you are covered, right? And depending on what kind of insurance, because we offer multiple tiers of insurance that the renter pays for, the level of protection, by default, you're getting $300,000 in damages and up to $1 million in liability. But if renters want to, purchase more coverage, we give them the ability to do that. And especially if you're renting a bigger RV, a Class C or a Class A, it probably makes sense to do that.
Yeah. Okay. This might be this question might not might have already been answered, but I'm going to ask
Yeah.
it. Is there any other safety measures or policies that Outdoorsy does have in place to protect renters and owners?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that is really baked into the insurance.
Yeah.
So if you go into the insurance component, you'll see it's not just comprehensive and liability, right?
Yeah.
Depending on the tier, we'll offer like, you know, roadside assistance through CoachNet or mobile mechanic or remote assistance, things along those lines. So whenever you book an RV through Outdoorsy, there's actually 3 different tiers of insurance. And I can't remember what they're called off the top of my head, but they're effectively like basic, premier, and like ultra, or good, better, best, right?
Yeah.
Different pricing, different levels of coverage and kind of, you know, benefits that come along with that. But beyond the insurance piece, I mean, again, we're verifying IDs of renters.
Well, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, so we're making sure you know there's not some crazy guy that, you know, is going to rent your RV from you. We're vetting every renter that
Ted Bundy types that are out there.
Yeah. Hopefully not on the Outdoorsy platform. And well, you know, we're verifying their IDs, so
If
we'll
not,
make
he's really
sure.
good.
Yeah, exactly. He's got a good fake ID.
Yeah.
But yeah, between the, you know, the ID verification, the insurance, we also do a lot of like education for hosts, right? Like here are things you should know as someone that's operated a rental platform for 10 plus years. We've seen it all.
Yeah.
So here are some things to look out for. Here's some things that we recommend doing. I mean, ultimately, if you have a renter that's coming to book your RV, like if you make sure they have everything they need, if you give them the walkthrough and say, hey, here are things to look out for on your rental, just as someone who may have never driven an RV before, like that's going to have an impact too.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that kind of covers everything on the insurance side. If you guys have questions, you please drop them in here. I'll try to reach out to Austin and get those answered for you. Payments and profit. We kind of talked about how it all works. It's 20% split or whatever, and then 10% also from the actual renter themselves.
Yep.
But I'm going to ask a question that like is a concern for me. And like if I was a host, right?
Yeah.
So on average, I mean, say I buy this RV, right? And I have a payment to be withheld. There's an overhead for me, right? I have to pay it. I have to pay the insurance. The insurance comes through. They pay for it, whatever.
Yeah.
On average, I mean, like, do you make more money than you do like depreciating the asset? Does that make sense? So you're like, are you gaining ground? Like,
yeah.
I'm like, I need to see the numbers, lay it out for me.
Well, it totally depends, right?
Yeah.
Like if you don't have a good listing and you're not getting any rentals and you've got a prohibitively high price set for your rental, like, no, you're not going to make money. You're not like, it's a market, right?
Yeah.
And you have to position your asset to be desirable to renters, right?
Yeah.
I'm not willing to say that all or most of our hosts either are necessarily making a profit on every RV rental, but I don't necessarily think it was designed to operate that way either. There's a cost of ownership associated with owning an RV, right? It's your loan, it's your insurance, it's storage, it's maintenance, it's all that stuff, right? So like, yeah, you may be paying $800 a month on your $20 loan, but in actuality, you're paying a lot more than that, right? And I think some folks, especially first-time RV buyers, don't necessarily know that on the front end, right? Outdoorsy is a great way to reduce that overall cost of ownership. Maybe you can afford to come out of pocket $1,000 a month, but all in your costs are $1,300.
Yeah.
You got to figure out a way to put that RV to work so you can afford it. Yeah. And Outdoorsy is a great way to do that, right? Yeah. Rent it out once a month. If you're renting it out for a one weekend, you're probably going to, based on what kind of RV you have, you're going to make that $300 difference just with one rental a month. Now suddenly that RV is fitting within your budget. Are you making money on it? No, but you're able to afford it now and use it for your own personal use and not have to worry about, hey, I'm having to pull $400 out of savings every month to cover this loan. Yeah. Now, I will say, I mean, there are people who have built businesses on the platform too. They're able to get high utilization. And when I say utilization, I just mean the number of days in a year that it's rented. And for those that do have high utilization, they do make money on those platforms or on those rentals. And we have people too that have come on. They'll buy an RV that's 2 or 3 model years old, but it's still a really nice RV, and they'll get a good deal on it. They'll rent it out on the platform for 2 or 3 years, make back 75% of that cost, and then they'll sell it for 50% of the value that they bought it for, and they come out on top, 25% margin on that vehicle, and they do it again, right?
See, that's kind of like where my mind was. Like,
there's a lot of people that do that.
It's like I'm using someone else's money to pay for the dang thing, and then when I'm finally ready to sell it, I profit. Like I'm not really paying for it. It's just there. It's an asset that's like, yeah, it's gaining me money. It may take 3 years, like you said, 2-3 years to get it, and then you sell it. And they're like, oh, well, it's paid for, and then I just made 15 grand on top.
Exactly. You know, and the guy that I rented, the individual I rented my camper van from in Florida, he had a similar business model. He'd go buy ProMasters. He would upfit them himself.
Oh, wow.
And then he would list them on Outdoorsy for a year, year and a half, 2 years. And then he would sell the camper van to someone for more than what he bought it for and went into the build.
Yeah.
And what was cool, too, is not only did he, you know, make money renting it out on Outdoorsy, but he also used Outdoorsy as a feedback loop. So he, you know,
build better.
Exactly. Yeah. I would come and drop off the rig, and he'd be like, "Hey, what did you like about this build?" And I told him, "Dude, the way the bed was set up, I felt like I had room. The cabinets were great. The lighting was easy." He built this like custom table that flipped out and had like, it was awesome.
Yeah.
And I, you know, this thing I would maybe do a little bit differently. The sliding door like came off the track. It was, you know, and he used that as feedback to increase the quality of his builds. And for him, like that was his full-time job. Yeah. He would buy vans, he'd upfit them, he'd rent them out, and then he'd sell them, and that was his living.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you can do it. You just got to do it right. You don't want to buy the most expensive, prettiest thing you can see, and then like have a horrible payment, and then not do it. So there are ways to do it. You got to do it smart.
And I would also set the expectation, like, you know, there's work involved, right? You got to clean the units when they come back. Got to make them presentable and ready for the next renter. But for a lot of families too, like we've seen this as well. Like you've got a traditional nuclear family. You got a husband, a wife, some kids. Maybe the wife or the husband works part-time and the other is the primary breadwinner. You got spare time and you've got an RV that's sitting in your garage, like rent it out.
Why not?
And now you've got someone that's, you know, working part-time, staying at home with the kids. This is kind of just a side hustle for them.
Why not? I mean, if you can help, at least help it pay for itself.
Absolutely.
You know, that's a good way to go about it. But you kind of mentioned something that, you know, there's upkeep to it. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to roll into maintenance because I think we covered all the how payments and like, yes, you can profit off this. Absolutely. You just got to do it the right way. Yes, you will get paid. Yes, you're covered. You know, we're covering a ton of this, so I really appreciate your time doing this. But maintenance and logistics. So let's kind of hop into that. Like, are there like requirements for maintenance and equipment that I need to provide when like for the RV? And then how do I handle routine maintenance? I guess we can talk about that later. So like, are there requirements for maintenance and equipment I need to provide for the RV? Yeah,
and candidly, I don't know what those requirements are off the top of my head, but like your RV needs to be road ready.
Okay.
Like you can't send someone out with expired tags, right? You can't send somebody out
don't worry about it.
Yeah, you can't send somebody out on an RV trip with like a leak in one of your tires, right? Like it has to be ready, road ready. Yep. Now there are always, you know, oh, this wasn't working, we're going to, you know, give you a deal or whatever. Like, oh, the refrigerator doesn't get, you know, colder than whatever, right? Like if you've owned an RV, you know before that not everything is working 100% of the time, right? But by and large, like as long as it's road ready and you're disclosing if there's any issues like to the renter ahead of time, it's not going to be an issue. Again, I don't know what those maintenance requirements are off the top of my head. I know there are some that are covered kind of in the ongoing host process, but the thick of it is like it needs to be road ready.
Yeah. Routine maintenance, you can talk to Bish's RV or BishFix. BishFix is our internal service platform that we can walk you through all the problems you have, basically through a phone call, right? And it's $199 a year if you use promo code RVVoice. I had to do that plug.
Hey, got to.
Part of my job, you know. So, so I guess what if this is one last little thing on the maintenance, because the maintenance is, I mean, it is what it is. You got to take care of it. People need to use it properly. I mean, you got to outfit it right. So there's got to be sheets. There's got to be plates. There's got to be stuff like that. There's got to be everything that should be an RV when you're using it should be there for the renter.
Well, it's funny you say that too, because, you know, yes, But we also have the ability for hosts to include add-ons to their rental. So some hosts will include, you know, bed sheets, plates, all that stuff by default. Some crafty hosts will say, hey,
that's on you.
That's on you. But if you want, I've got a nice set of plateware, all that stuff, fresh bed sheets, whatever. That most people will include bed sheets in the rental. But there are, But yeah, hey, you want, like, you know, all these extra bells and whistles? Cool. It's going to be $5 for plateware, you know, for each day of your rental. It's going to be, oh, you're going to a campground with like a lake. We've got a kayak you can bring with that, you know, you can store it in the pass-through. That's going to be an extra $15 a day for that kayak rental. So we also give hosts the ability to monetize not only the RV, but things that go with it too.
Well, that's a smart idea. I mean, why not? I mean, it's another asset. Might as well put it to work.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about, I guess, that's perfect. Enhancing the experience. So standout or unique RV experiences that Outdoorsy uses. You talked about one, so we're not going to have to cover that.
Yep.
How does Outdoorsy use feedback for customers to improve or enhance their rental experience?
Yeah. So whenever you're done with an RV trip, like, we want you to leave a review for your host. Most do. Everyone, you know, some people are lazy, myself included. So, you know, you're not going to get
we all are.
You're not going to get a review for every individual, but most of the time you will.
Yep.
And you should use that feedback, right?
Yep.
I would say by and large it's going to be positive, but there's always room for improvement, I would say, too, as a host. And by having that open dialogue with your renters, they're going to help you create an experience for future renters that's even better, right? And as a host, you should be shooting for those 5-star reviews. I touched on it earlier. A lot of people, when they're new to the platform, they have cheaper pricing. They undercut the market a little bit to get those initial rentals, to get that review collateral. Go above and beyond. You know, get 3 or 4, 5, 6 5-star reviews, and suddenly you're going to see a lot more interest in your rig. So that review collateral is extremely important. And a lot of hosts too, they ask for their renters to provide pictures of their trip, and they'll actually use that collateral with their, you know, listing.
Sign here, sign here, sign here.
Yeah, exactly, right? Ask permission first, but like, there's a lot of people that are happy to give that to you. And, you know, on a listing, showing someone that's not you or your kids having a great time in your rig only adds credibility to you as a host to provide a great experience.
Yeah, I'm guessing there's people that have like social pages for it too.
Oh, for sure.
So like here, like this is Winnie the Mini Winnie, you know?
Yep.
Because that's the thing. But
Mini Winnies, love them.
Anyway, yeah, that's the thing. But anyway, so I'm guessing people have like, well, this is where everywhere Winnie's been.
Yep.
Know? Where's Winnie now? And like, they just like take pictures of everybody. I'm assuming that happens.
Yep.
I'm sure I haven't stumbled across any personally besides van ones. I'm pretty sure I've stumbled on a van rental one. It's more my algorithms. Yeah, they got me. But
I mean, we do a lot of van rentals, and I see those first and foremost too, because that's the kind of customer that I am.
I think it's probably just the easiest.
Yeah,
you know, like people like
to drive,
most comfortable
for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a gas powered ProMaster the first time, and I don't think I ever had diesel, but I think it was a ProMaster the second time too. That thing's easy to drive. I drive an SUV. Couldn't really tell much of a difference.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. Yeah, I can hop in a 40-footer and it doesn't bother me. But I grew up on a farm.
I am not that brave.
So, all right. Well, I guess we can ask this. What advice would you give someone new to RVing who is considering renting through Outdoorsy?
Do your research, right? Like, build an itinerary. Look, renting an RV is a really cool experience, but just having an RV isn't going to yield your like an amazing trip, right? Use the tools out there to build a cool itinerary. Find cool campgrounds that have like stuff to do. There's some other partners that we work out there that are great, like Harvest Host. Love to throw a shout out for Harvest Host. You know, you can get an annual membership for $60 and go stay for free at, you know, breweries or vineyards or alpaca farms, right? Cool stuff like that, right? Like, I was lucky on my trip in Florida because my host helped me build that itinerary on the fly.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to this in Florida and you've not been to Mazzaro's yet, go to that place because it's wonderful. Same with the Dolly Museum.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff really made our trip all the more special. So be prepared, first and foremost. Do your research, too, on the type of vehicle you want to rent, right? If you're a family of 4, camper van's probably not a great solution for you, right?
Yeah.
Class C, on the other hand, would probably be just fine.
Yeah.
Or if you want to have a trailer delivered, that's a great route as well. And it's low lifts, pretty easy. A lot of the hosts on our platform charge a very low mileage or delivery fee.
Yeah.
But I mean, my recommendation would just be to do your research, right? It's the RV is what gets you there, but it's not necessarily what drives the experience. Now, having a poor RV can like ruin that experience, but having a great RV is just going to make it even better. So yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how helpful that advice would be, but yeah, do your research.
It makes sense. So like the trip planning is probably one of the biggest daunting tasks.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, you know, people like have, you know, I want to go to Glacier National Park. Perfect. That's all you need it for. Awesome. You can go there, coast that out. Like, just go there, come back, whatever. If you're really like doing like a, hey, I'm going to do like a 2-month trip, because I'm guessing that happens.
Yeah. Now, we don't see a ton of those just because it gets pretty expensive renting out for.
What about a month? Do you see a month?
Yeah, we've seen, especially with international travelers, we have seen that. I would say the average trip duration on the Outdoorsy platform, a lot of people do last minute weekend trips.
Okay.
That's a big one. But then for a more kind of traditional road trip style trip, you'll see trips that are easily like 5 to 8 days too.
Okay. So what I'm getting at is if you feel like making an RV trip, like a real, like, I have 3 places or 4 places that I want to get, and that's a daunting task for you, there's this thing called RV Trip Wizard, or through RV Life Pro.
Yep, they're partners of ours too.
That's $65 a year. That's some places one plate, you know, depending on where you're at, maybe 2 plates. But even so, that just adds to the whole experience if you really want to make the experience that much better.
Yeah, and they've got other helpful tools as well. Like, you know, you're renting an RV that's
tall,
6 feet taller than your normal vehicle. You need to know what bridges you can go under.
Yeah.
So when you're using their GPS, you know, you're going to plug in the type of RV. Hey, don't go under this bridge.
Yeah.
And as Outdoorsy, we're like, yes, one less claim. But you know,
yeah,
you don't want to take off the top of your RV going under a bridge that's, you know, 16 feet clearance when yours is 17 feet tall. So those types of tools are definitely recommended as well, especially if you're a first timer.
And it can even like avoid gravel roads if you're not comfortable with that. It can avoid that. I mean, it can get really granular on how you want to go about that. So I didn't know you guys were partners with them as well. I knew you were. I knew you were all under the same like partnership umbrella, but I didn't know if you were. We've
got partnerships with a lot of the big brands now. Sense. How, you know, whether it's Roamly, Outdoorsy, what it looks like, that varies. But yeah, no, Andy and Patrick over at RV Life, great folks. We actually did a similar in Florida that year. It was Outdoorsy / Roamly, Harvest Toast, and RV Life that did a RV Technology Summit, and it was the first one that we ever did. And those were the 3 brands that were there that were talking. So they're all great folks, and I think like us, they are working to modernize an industry that historically has been a little bit further behind, I would say. Versus auto. Versus auto. Yeah. So if you haven't heard about RV Life Pro, I actually talked to Patrick Buchanan the other day, and I have that. You can check it out. I'll put it in the description here. But we're kind of wrapping it up here. You've been awesome. Thank you, Austin, very much. Of course, my pleasure. Trends and industry, I guess, insights. Like, what trends are you seeing, or what trends or changes do you see in the RV rental market, and how is Outdoorsy like adapting to these? Yeah, I mean, candidly, like, the RV industry is dealing with some headwinds right now, I would say. And I would say that, you know, after the moonshot that was COVID, we were always going to come back to earth a little bit, right? Like, now we're up from where we were pre-COVID, but the growth that we saw during COVID was candidly just unsustainable. Everyone and their mom was like, I want to buy or rent an RV. And I'm sure you see it in the dealership space too. With that said, it's a healthy industry, and we are, you know, we're seeing more and more interest every year. From an ownership perspective, some of those headwinds, though, are higher interest rates, right? Tariffs can drive up the cost of materials going forward. There are definitely things that make RV ownership a little bit more difficult now than it was 3-4 years ago. And that's not to say that it's unattainable, but I think that's also a reason why a platform like Outdoorsy is more important now than ever, right? A lot of folks right now, I think, are upside down on their loans. So they go to trade in their current RV to save on their payment, and what they get in return is a much lower quality RV, unfortunately. So, you know, rather than take a bath on something like that, listing it on Outdoorsy and finding a way to more easily pay off that loan is a great way to do it. I think in general right now, the economy is a little bit down. Just the cost of living is higher than it has been historically.
Eggs are so expensive. I eat a lot of eggs. And I went in there the other day, and all of a sudden they were double the price.
Yep.
And I buy 60 at a time or more. Yeah,
Bulk.
I go through a lot. Yeah.
Man loves his eggs.
But I about crapped. I was like, what the? Yeah. These were just $12,
right?
You know?
And sometimes that makes trips like Outdoorsy something that you do once a year instead of twice a year, right? So we're definitely experiencing some of those things, and luckily, like, our hosts too see that.
Yeah.
So for them, like, there are hosts that are lowering prices to better facilitate, you know, a rental that's achievable for someone that wants to go on a rental right now.
Yeah.
So there are definitely some unique challenges in the RV space right now. With that said, Outdoorsy is, you know, operating in a very healthy way. We continue to see growth. We continue to expand. And we think that going forward, like, despite some of these headwinds, we're going to continue to see that growth just because RVing isn't going away.
No.
I think a lot of people thought that, you know, oh, van life, it was a trend. You know, it's going to go back to how it was. You know, it's grandma and grandpa taking a road trip.
Nope.
It's not. RVing is here to stay.
It's going this way.
And it's going up.
Yeah.
And I think especially kind of more millennial, you know, late Gen X, early Gen Z, like, we want experiential travel.
Yeah.
And there's really no better way to do that than in an RV, in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
So it's here to stay. We're not going anywhere. We're going to continue to see growth on both the supply and the demand side. Yeah. So we feel good about where we're at.
Yeah, and on top of that, if you guys think it's going somewhere, you're probably wrong. And I don't like to tell people they're wrong. But the reason being is, like, well, COVID was a big spike in why people can work remote.
Yeah.
And it's only getting, I guess, better. I'm filming with this thing over here that I can get cellular service in 90% of the U.S.
Yep.
You know, I mean, you can do anything basically anywhere, and people are just like, well, why buy a house when I be upside down for 30 years?
Sticks and bricks can hold you back sometimes, man.
You're darn right. Right now, I can't afford a house. I mean, I could, but I'd be locked to it.
You'd be house poor.
Yeah, I'd be like, sweet. I'm here for, it doesn't make sense.
Yep.
So if you're thinking about getting in the RV space, Austin Green here with Outdoorsy really broke down Outdoorsy. And he talked about Romley a little bit too. So, like, the insurance side of things. We broke down insurance. We talked about how you get paid. We talked about how you're covered when something goes wrong through the insurance. The basics of it all. I mean, there's basically everything. Maintenance, you know, that's all on you guys. Enhancing the experience. Outdoorsy is the way to go, or one of the ways to go if you want to, I guess, what was it? Offset the cost of ownership.
Reduce that cost of ownership.
Or if you want to be a pro and, like, that's how you want to live your life and make money, build an empire with RVs, and you can do that. There's people that do that. Fireside RV was one of them. You said Chill RV with Mika or whatever. I've never heard of that one, but I'm gonna talk to her now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and everything else. I mean, there's a lot of ways to make money, but this is one way to do it. Definitely,
and hosts are the lifeblood of our platform.
Yeah.
Supply is what keeps us going. So if you're thinking about it, if you're RV curious, give it a shot, right? It's a great platform to not only make some money on the side, but there's also something rewarding about providing really cool, unique experiences for these people that don't own an RV and are curious or don't have the means to do it. You know, I've also seen some hosts create, like, lifelong friendships with some of these renters, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, and when I came back, you know, it was funny for me to just explain how awesome of a trip we had in Florida, and you know, talked about what we did, and you know, for me it was a big deal, and for the host, you could see that it meant a lot that he helped provide that experience, but also for him, it was kind of just another Tuesday. It's like he gets to do this all the time, which is sweet, cool, right? Like, yeah. So I mean, not only like the monetary aspect, but being able to kind of provide a really cool, unique experience that can have an impact on people's lives is really rewarding as well.
Yeah. So I have one line here. I'm going to state it, and we're going to kind of close it out here.
Yeah.
It says, whether you're an RV owner or someone considering an RV rental, Outdoorsy offers opportunities to explore, connect, and create unforgettable adventures. If there's nothing else from you, Austin, thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, had a great time.
And everybody out there, stay tuned for more from the RV Voice.